Welcome to the Great Honey Podcast. I'm Maya, the Amerlin Bee,
I'm Marcel the Gleeman.
and this is a show where we talk about all things Wheel of Time. If you're joining us from YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. Leave a comment so we can chat. And today we're going to be talking about the season finale of season 1 of the Wheel of Time.
Yeah, the Eye of the World, the last episode of this season.
It was so fast.
It was fast. I wasn't ready for it to be over, but here we are. I kind of I'm mixed on it, but mostly I'm enjoying it. How did you kind of feel about it?
I'd give it a solid 7, which is probably the lowest I'd give any of the other episodes. Not that I've ever publicly said my rating of an episode.
7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does a lot of it has to do a lot of heavy lifting.
Mhm.
And I think that's kind of why it struggles a little bit, because it had to account for a lot, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it suffers because of that. But I think it does a good job in the way that the show has been doing for the whole season. Is the pretty much the performances, I think, kind of carry it across the finish line, because I enjoyed it. There's things that I go into it as a book reader knowing so much about the book, but then when you get into this episode, there's so many things that they decide to change that make it so that, like, I know almost too much and not enough because I don't understand exactly what any of these changes mean, and I don't know how to interpret everything. But so I think I kind of step back when I think about that, because I think it's good on its own, and my book knowledge kind of hurts me a little bit. But so that's kind of why I'm trying to step back a little bit. But I do think it had some just structural problems. But other than that, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, 7 out of 10, that sounds rough, but I really loved it.
Yeah.
I just was like vibing. I just wish it was longer. Like
Yeah.
a season finale under an hour just feels unfair.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I think I think the whole season could have benefited from more time, but I think they wanted to stick to 8 episodes. And I don't know, maybe there's something to that I wouldn't notice as like just a fan, right? Because it seems like that's a metric, maybe. Like,
I think it is. I think it's 100%. I read somewhere on some TV guide type article that it's like the timing constraints were 100% like algorithm based. So
right. I mean, it makes sense to me because the show did really well for Amazon.
yeah.
So I think while fans like us might want a little more time to like sit with some of these things, maybe a lot more people were fine with the length that it was. So there's kind of that part of it that I'm not sure how to measure. But
Yeah.
we can go through it, and we can kind of, I think there's like a couple key moments that I'll be like really critical about, but other than that, I had, a lot of good stuff to say about it.
Yeah. I guess before we get into the show, what are we gonna do? We don't have any more TV show to talk about.
I know. I mean, I was thinking we could do a season review, sort of
Yeah.
like a season review, and then kind of touching on what we liked about the season overall. And then we'll get into our sort of book sort of summaries and reviews where we can deal with a more character guided sort of discussion.
All right, stay tuned because we're not going to be gone next week.
Yeah, we'll be back, but we'll have to figure out how we actually lay it out.
So what happens?
So the cold open. Yes. I was excited for this because in every book reader will know there's a big cold open that a lot of people, when you pick up the book, can be very confusing because it jumps you straight into the Age of Legends, as it's called, and it's essentially the world of the first dragon, in which the world was broken, and thus sets the stage for the actual show. and we kind of are here with this character that we learn is Luz Theron Telemon, which he is also described in the show as a dragon reborn, talking with another character that, of course, I've forgotten the name of, but I think she's basically, this is sort of a like
It's like the
disagreement they're
Amerlin
having.
seat, but not Amerlin seat,
Yes,
right?
he calls her the Armelin seed, and I don't know if we know exactly what that means in this world, since
Yeah.
you know, in this first age, or this age of legends, as we see as this scene ends, we have no idea the landscape they're living in, with like flying cars and the whole
Mhm.
different sort of like setup there. But yeah, essentially they're at some sort of disagreement about what to do about the war of the shadow, which has been raging, which I don't know if you can actually tell from the site that they're at, but they're trying to figure out how to deal with the dark one. And Luz Theron, the dragon reborn at this time, has decided to essentially close or seal the dragon up, which this other person, the female in this scene, is disagreeing with the way he wants to do it. I think that's kind of where we end with that scene. We get a cool kind of look at, what the dragon looks like with
Yeah.
the sort of futuristic sort of like clothing they have on, um and this weird, and I think this is notable, the ring that they both
Mhm.
have this ring that like covers three of their fingers.
I wonder if that's like the male Aes Sedai ring of like that time or something. That was like what I thought.
Well,
I'm not sure.
both both of the
But
characters have it,
yeah.
and then another character that we're introduced to later has it as well. So I don't know. I guess it's probably something of that age. Maybe it's
Did they
akin
both
to
have
the
the
Aes
ring
Sedai ring.
thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And I
I
wish
missed
I could
that.
remember her name, but essentially she's, I guess, of someone of equal like sort of rank to the Dragon Reborn here, or at least in some way she's got some sort of standing to come to him in his nursery with his baby.
Yeah.
Um so but yeah, so that's
Cool
kind of
that
where we get there.
it was cool to get to
It's
hear the old tongue too.
Yeah, I should say that whole scene was done in the old tongue, which is pretty cool.
I had to like rewind after watching it the first time because I was so like confused. And I was like, they're not speaking the common language. Is that the old tongue? And then I was like, is that Luz Theron? And then I was like, is there electricity behind?
Yeah, I mean, they don't explain a whole bunch about what's going on there. But yeah, I
A
think I
bit
think we're supposed to
more.
assume, does it say that it's the old tongue, or is I'm just assuming that it is, but
I'm just going off the fact that I know that all of the music is in the old tongue, that
mhm.
is also old tongue.
So I think we can be pretty sure it is, but yeah, I think it gives us like a good insight into that world and how it's so different. And I don't know if you saw this, it's on Twitter, but there's a screenshot of like the first episode where you see like these overgrown like skyscrapers that are like, there's a bunch of like foliage and stuff over top of it. You're supposed to, I think if you see these two screenshots, the one at the end of this cold open and that first shot from the first episode, it looks like the same place. It's just that the foliage and like aging of it has like taken its toll.
That confuses me. Or maybe I'm just like these two things happen in different places. So like they're technically in Manetherin at that like, or like maybe not Manetherin,
Right.
place that is also where Manetherin was. 'Cause I don't know what age that was. Um,
Yeah.
and then where Luz Theron makes the volcano, that's at Tar Valid. So
Right.
they're
It's
not, that doesn't
clear.
happen in the same place, but that's like where his
Yeah.
baby is.
Yeah, it's unclear where they are in any of this. And I think one thing I would say, and I know why they didn't do it, but the show needs a map somewhere.
Yes.
I don't know where you put it, because if you do it like, if you do it in the beginning of the credits, it's kind of like, okay, derivative of another show.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like they need it. But yeah, I don't think we know exactly, because I know we're supposed to understand that where Dragonmount is, that's where I assume Luz Theron's home was. Um, and that's when he like erupts into that volcano. But here I think they, in the beginning, in that first episode, we don't really know where they are before they go to the Two Rivers. So it could be that they're outside, um, back towards Tarvalon or Tarvalon somewhere. But
Presumably, he has
yeah.
a flying car, so
Yeah, they could get anywhere
could
instantly.
have
There's other,
multiple.
I think we're supposed to understand they have a ton of abilities that we don't necessarily have in this time period. So
That's just me getting
uh,
stuck on a detail that
yeah,
doesn't really matter yet.
yeah, exactly. So I guess from there we move into the Blight
Two
with
best
Rand
friends.
and Maureen, who are going through a very, and I think we touched on this last week, but I think the Blight looks, appropriately filthy and kind of awful. Um, there's like weird stuff like being grown over like other people's bodies and remnants, and it's really I think it does a good job of like portraying the Blight. The name evokes such filth, and I feel like they did a pretty good job with it. But so they're walking through and traversing through this area to get to the eye of the world, and they have this sort of, I don't know if we want to go into this dream sequence, but I thought it was interesting, where they decide to take a rest, right?
Yeah.
um Moraine says that we could take at least a quick nap before we continue on,
He's a
and we get this
fat.
fake out death, and I don't know, there's been a lot of fake out deaths, so I'm like, I have like, I don't know
Yeah.
if I have a set amount of them, but I don't know. How did you feel about this one?
Feel like the thing that was so at first it was like, oh no, Maureen, like what's
Yeah.
this? And then he was like, this is a dream. And then the thing that confused me was when Rand stabbed himself in the stomach.
Yeah.
Because there's a rule about the dream world that if you kill yourself in the dream world, then you die in the real world. But not every time you dream and like interact with someone, you're in the dream world.
Right.
Right. And I
That
was like
I
very scared because I was like, did Rand just die?
there's so many rules about this stuff that it's hard for me, because it's
Yeah.
like, if it's done a certain way, I don't think there's a problem with what Rand did, but if it's done in another way, it could break some of the lore. I'm
Yeah.
not going to go into it because I don't think it does. I think we're supposed to assume that Rand just intuitively knows that, like, if I stab myself, I'll wake up,
Yeah.
which I don't know that that's good logic in the Wheel of Time world to practice going forward.
Yeah. Because I feel like if he like told my range, she'd be like, don't do that, please.
Right. Yeah. But I did like and this is, I think we can kind of touch on this, where the
One.
Dark One shows up and kind of does the whole, like, he reveals his face, right? We've only up until this point seen his fiery eyes and the mask and the fiery mouth.
Yeah.
But he kind of, this I really did like this scene where Rand takes out his arrow, shoots him in the eye, and the guy just pushes the arrow into his eye and absorbs his mask, which it's interesting. Definitely did not expect it to be revealed that way, but it's just a normal dude that
Yeah.
is, at least he looks like a normal dude, right?
Yeah.
That apparently
Like
is the Dark
weirdly
One.
kind of likable.
Yeah.
Like you're
He's
just
got
oh, it's like a
he's
normal.
got a sensible, like, sort of demeanor, and he
Yeah.
seems to be like,
And like
I'm on your side.
business casual.
His suit looks cool. I mean, like,
Yeah.
he's got a good look to him. But yeah, I think this guy's introduction is, again, a change from the books that I think, though. I don't know. I like the books, obviously, and I like the character as introduced in the books, but here it's different, and I think we're supposed to be kind of I don't know. I think it works because you're supposed to try to want to believe him, or at least, he comes off as like, kind of like most sort of like figures that end up in this sort of position of being like the feared dark one, right? But he has something to offer that you can maybe understand or maybe at least be sympathetic to.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It freaked me out when Rand woke up and Moiraine said the exact same thing.
yeah,
I was like, oh no. And then it was fine.
yeah. I was a little taken aback too because I was like, wait, I don't know where this is going. They find the eye. Rand notes that he recognizes the place. And then, he notices the symbol. Um, that I don't know if they actually say what that symbol is, but it's got the sort of yin yang symbol in the middle. And he notices that there is a battle there, and we see that character we saw in the cold open as Lews Therin, or the original, or at least the previous dragon, sort of engaging in a battle with that guy that we had just saw that revealed himself as the Dark One. And yeah, I guess we should note too, before they go down into the eye, I think Rand specifically was like, Moiraine, if you're gonna go down here with me, does that mean you're gonna die too? And she basically is like, yes, and I'm gonna do it anyway, whatever you say. Because I think we discussed, like, is this were they planning on this reality, last episode when they were, planning to go down into the eye, when they realized that, people who weren't the dragon were going to most likely die.
I was actually rewatching a few episodes today, and right before they go into the ways, Moiraine like hesitates before she says, I didn't trust you when I met
Right.
you back in Emmons Field, and now and then she like pauses and is like, let me be straight with you. And she can't lie, so she can't say she trusts them. And then as soon as like she gets like a vibe that like Rand can't be trusted, you like
Yeah.
realize that she's gonna kill Rand if he like chooses the dark side. So I think that's why, is like she's like, I'm gonna sacrifice myself to like stop this like
Right.
dragon from breaking the world.
Yeah. I think that's a good read on it, because I think her acknowledging early on too that she would kill them if they chose the dark, and she doesn't really trust them, I think is kind of the subtext of that too, which is probably a fair assumption considering everything. You know, these people don't really trust her either. So I mean, I think it all makes sense in that way.
She was so
And there was
nice about it
always,
though that I feel like Rand just was like, oh, thanks.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think she looked at him and was like, I got that look from her when he was like, basically, if you're gonna die, don't die. Just stay here. I'll deal with this myself. And she was just like, yeah, okay. And like walks past him, like, I'm not gonna let this whole mission that I've been like,
Yeah.
planning my whole like last like 2 or 3 decades to like accomplish, up to you. This little kid that I just met like, like a month ago. So I guess we can, I don't know, let's leave it there because I feel like we could touch on Rand at the end. So I guess we're back in Fal Dara with Lan and Nynaeve. What did you think about their scene together? Because I think we touched on this too, how they would, the fallout from the last episode.
I feel like I have mixed feelings because I love it when Lan like says like those exact words in the book, but at the same time, you like, I've been rewatching the whole show like this whole time, and you kind of see that like they sort of established that like Lan and Nynaeve, like even before they hook up, have like a special relationship and that they're close with each other. Like they'll just be like talking about stuff and like not like it doesn't have anything to do with the show, or
Right.
like she's just like following him around. So like that they like probably have had some like off-screen like moments of like, I don't know, but it's just like weird when she's just like, a wisdom never marries, but I don't think I'm a wisdom anymore. Just like
It's like, okay,
Lan's like,
what do you mean then? Where are you going with this?
but it was cute. And
Yeah.
yeah, and like I also kind of wish we got more of Lan in this episode trying to like get to Moiraine to help
Yeah.
her. Rather than like one clip of him in the blight and then like him getting there.
Yeah. I mean, there's
I feel like we're
a
like dragging this episode. I guess we're
I,
probably
I'm
not.
not I think the
I really like
performance here
yeah.
is good. I think their chemistry really works well. And I think these characters are very well written. And
Yeah.
so I believe it. I think, it could come off particular like, potentially as corny, but I love this line and pretty much the whole like I'll love the man that like, makes you smile. That whole, it's great. It's a great line. It's pretty much lifted directly from the books. And so I was, once I heard that, I was like, okay, this is that scene. And I think they make it work, and it makes sense why they put so much into their relationship in this
Yeah.
first season, as opposed to the first book, where it's there but not necessarily. Well, it's not there for a lot of reasons, really, and that's largely to do with how the books are written in the POV sort of style. But yeah, they really focus on that, and I feel like their relationship kind of culminates in this, and I think we're supposed to get a certain element of
Like a breakup almost, or like a
yeah,
yeah.
because
It's
why say like he'll love the man that
yeah.
that makes her smile if he's not going to be that man. you know
Yeah. It's interesting that like her trick for tracking him was actually tracking Moiraine and
yeah,
like she didn't want to tell him how to track her
yeah,
when it was like clear that like he needed it.
yeah. It's funny. I think it's a perfect. I mean, it's one of those things that's like, I think if you look at it from a book purist way, you could be like, what, that he should be able to track Moraine, but I don't think he would spend his time worrying about tracking Moraine since he has the bond. So he
Yeah.
wouldn't care
Oh,
about her tells ever because he could always just use the bond to find her. So I think that was well used in my opinion. All right, so then we are at the Faldor prep for battle scene or sequence where Lady Amalisa and Lord Algamar sort of amp each other up to get ready to fight a losing battle. It seems like, and where they're kind of, I guess the sort of setup here is again like hard for me to follow. It seems like the gap they have like a gate built there in front of the gap where I guess is their first line of defense, which is smart, which I don't think is in the book. That gap is actually just opened in the book, but in the show they
yeah.
decided to actually build a sort of like
A
a sort
wall.
of yeah, something there that they can defend before they break through. And so that's where Lord Algamar is going, to at least be the first line of defense. And if that fails, which Lord Algamar basically is like, there's no way you can win with the amount of Trollocs, which I think is in the thousands, I guess is what they say, like 5 to 10,000, maybe 20. Um, so they basically don't think they're going to win this fight. And if the gate falls or that wall falls at the gap, then the last line of defense will be the women who are defending the city of Faldara, or the fortress city. So that's kind of that whole scene. I felt like it was important to go over, even though this is one of my criticisms of this episode. I felt like it was supposed to be more of a big. I didn't care as much about this sequence because I don't know, it
It,
just didn't land as well for me. I don't know
I
how you
got
felt about it.
I got trying to film during COVID vibes.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that happened in these last two episodes, but particularly this one seems to have suffered from it.
I feel like this one changed a lot.
You know,
Like they couldn't really do the battle in the sky without the horn blower, right?
right, right.
And then I feel like the awkwardness of the smaller army wouldn't have mattered as much because you could just like multiply people like watching
Right.
this battle in the sky.
Did you, I don't know, did you understand what was happening or why it was happening? That was another thing that I was like, they kind of alluded to like the blight being more problematic recently. And then Agomar was like kind of like touchy about it and he didn't want to like get help for it. But
Yeah.
why did this happen? I guess other than the dragon or born being there.
Feel like it's part of the trap.
Yeah.
Like I feel like in order for them to like go along with it, they had to like believe that they were at the final battle,
Yeah.
right? And so like just throw some Trollocs at them
Yeah.
and then it's like it's happening. It's here, even though it was just three Murdral and some Trollocs that Pot on Fane
I mean,
like
that's kind of where I'm like, is there, I don't, maybe it is just literally like they're trying to manifest this attack or this like this, I guess, get them to understand that this is a serious event and that we need to throw all these Trollocs at it. Because if we kind of, I don't know if, I guess it's a good part to kind of bring in the actual attack. Because when they start attacking, they like do that sort of, I don't know if you've seen like any like trying to think of a good zombie movie where they do this, where they basically like pile the Trollocs are like piling onto each other. Like
mhm,
the ones the bottom sacrificing themselves so the other ones can get up to the top of the
yeah,
to that wall that they've built there. And it's just
very
like,
World War Z in Jerusalem
yeah,
kind of.
exactly. World War Z is exactly what I'm thinking of. And it to what end? I have no idea because if it's under the direction of the Dark One knows where the dragon is at this point in the story. So I don't really
Yeah.
get,
I mean,
maybe
well,
it
I think it
is for
was to
the
get the horn,
right, yeah.
but then like I also don't understand why Lord Agelmar went there when Lady Amalisa and Egwene and Nynaeve could have like because like they just kind of really easily ish
Right.
got rid of the Trolloc army pretty fast.
I feel like they should have led with the Chandlers at first. I don't know. From the
I
tops
don't
of the
know,
walls.
like just like lightning, then arrows,
Right.
just to like get the crowd thinned.
I
I
think
don't
you're right.
know.
It's like as if I was planning it, that's kind of how I would feel about it. But I get, I don't know. It kind of played off weird for me because I think we're supposed to care about these characters more than I did at this point, especially Algamar and Amalisa. I mean, I think the actors did a great job, which is
Mhm.
the constant through this entire season. But we've only been introduced to them very briefly, and then they're going to their like their last stand battle essentially, both of them, and I don't know that I feel it as much. And
Yeah.
and then Agomar
Uh,
gets like impaled as they as one of the Trollocs break through and get into his like arrow like slit where he's shooting his crossbow bolts. And I don't know, do you think he's gone?
no,
You
I
didn't see,
don't.
if it's the rule of you don't see the body, he's not dead sort of thing. We
Yeah,
can maybe say
that
this that's the case here.
that and I'm just like, if you tweet from Prague, you must be not dead.
Right. I
Thomas Channing's Twitter is really delightful. I feel like he tweets kind of like an uncle,
yeah,
it's really sweet.
I looked into him. His IMDb has a lot of good stuff that I've seen him in. Actually, I didn't know it was him particularly when he was casting this.
Mhm.
He's good. I mean, again, I do like the performances here, and particularly the scene before they go and march off to the wall, where he's kind of given this whole thing about their or she or
Uh,
Amelisa is telling him about the armor and everything. And I think we're supposed to think about the armor because he gets stabbed through like or impaled through that armor is how he dies. But he doesn't look like he's dead. He doesn't look to be like in his death throes. He's more just angry looking. So I don't know. Maybe he does survive that, but we don't see him again. But I guess we're supposed to assume that the Trollocs overtake that wall as they predicted that they would. Um, so yeah, that's that scene. And then I guess we kind of meet up. I guess we can put this here where um looks like Amelisa is looking for channelers or anyone who can channel the one power, any female who can, so that they can link up with her, I guess, is ultimately what her goal is. And Loyal lets everyone know. And, Nynaeve stands up and she's like, I'll defend you guys because I've let two of you guys leave my protection aura, my space of protection. So I'm going to try and do this here. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where they end up in front as the last line of defense before they get to Fal Dara, the Trollocs, after breaking through that wall. Um, that scene is intense. What do you think about that scene, the linking scene?
I loved that you could like visibly see through like the weaves that
Yeah,
Nynaeve was so much more powerful by like the brightness.
yeah,
It kind of gave me like Dragon Ball Z vibes.
yes, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Like the power.
I mean, it was clear. I think this is my read on it. It seemed super effective, and in hindsight, I'm like, why didn't they just leave with that? And it's because they didn't maybe realize how powerful Nynaeve was going to be, and Egwene,
Yeah.
so that they didn't think that they would have a chance with just using the
Yeah.
power. But in the moment, I'm just like, why didn't they just start with this? Like, this is super effective.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
I liked
but
it
yeah,
though. It was I don't know, looking back on Min's like brief vision of Nynaeve burning out like right before the battle horns blow and then like
yeah,
seeing her vision come true. I think it's kind of nice to like get like a fast payoff of Min's
right.
visions too.
I
So you like
agree.
know she actually predicts the future. Because they're still like, I was like, whose baby is that? I'm
I
still
mean,
stuck on the baby.
that was an interesting scene. I think to stay on Min for a second, I think her leaving the city, and I think they show her like actually leaving, was interesting to me. I don't know where she's leaving to, but I do like the fact that her vision paid off that way, so that we kind of have like a touchstone to know that these visions will manifest like in actual scenes that we can see. So that's kind of nice to actually know. Because I wasn't sure, especially when we got the Rand baby one. I had no idea how that would come. And we get the payoff of that in this episode too.
I think so, because
Um,
I was looking and they look like different babies.
they did? Hmm.
I think so.
Well,
Could be
I
wrong
didn't I
though.
didn't I didn't even think to check the baby from episode 7. So you might be right. But I mean again, that that whole sequence with the baby was so interesting, and played into everything so well. I don't know. It could play in later too.
Talking
Um,
about the men baby scene or the baby scene in this episode?
both. I mean, like I think it was interesting because in the previous episode, we see that baby and how happy he looks holding the baby. It looks similar to what we see when he's in the dream with the dark one, holding the baby. It looks similar. So I guess I just in my mind was like, okay, these are the same babies. This is the same vision. But you know, maybe not. Maybe there's more babies for Rand to come.
I don't know. Maybe next week I'll like retract my statement that they were different.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, who knows? But um I think it was good to get an actual payoff for her vision to see that it actually is something that we can rely on. Um, but so I guess we can go if you want to kind of deal with the actual ramifications of the linking and that whole scene since we were kind of there. Um, I tweeted on I tweeted this out about how I'd wished in this linking scene. So essentially, the linking is super effective, as we said, and they're able to kill a ton of the Trollocs, and looks like they kill all of them. It doesn't look like they're a threat anymore. But Amalisa is so intoxicated by the power that she can't stop. And so I think, at this moment, she's sort of lost she's completely lost to the amount of power that she's handling. And she can't normally, I guess, deal with this amount of power. Or I guess that, we found that out in the last episode. She wasn't strong enough to become an Aes Sedai. But in this episode, she has, access to all this power. She doesn't want to let go. And it goes completely to her head, and she kills the two other people that are there, that were linked with her, and it starts to kill Nynaeve and Egwene. And they're all beginning to burn out with this sort of like illumination that's happening from within. It looks to physically be burning them. But yeah, what did you think about this scene?
I mean, I wasn't expecting it to literally be like eyeballs burning kind of like
Yeah.
visuals, but I know that's one thing that like hasn't really been explained in the show of like what it feels like to channel,
Yeah.
and that it's like kind of like addictive to the like Aes Sedai and to male channelers. So I don't know. I think it was kind of
Yeah.
interesting in that way.
I think what I tweeted out about was that literally I wish that Nynaeve would have went over and punched Amelise in the face during
I
that
saw
moment.
that.
It's just, it makes so much sense to me that would have happened to stop her, because she was killing everybody. I mean, but it looks like that linking kind of has some sort of control over the people who are linked. Because when Amelisa lifts her hands up in the air or whatever, everyone else does. So it seems like she has control over them to some degree during that. So maybe she physically couldn't actually do anything, which, is kind of an awful thing to do and not explain that to the people you're, linking with. But yeah, that was interesting. So we basically get into, and during this scene we can talk about what's happening with Rand, because it's kind of happens these kind of climax at the same time where we get Rand. I don't know if you wanted to kind of discuss how that one led up, because it was an interesting way to get into it, because we had left off with Rand stepping to the eye of the world, remembering some things, and then he touches it, then he just collapses apparently.
Yeah.
And the next time we see him, he wakes up in this sort of dream world.
Mhm.
But yeah, what did you this scene plays out pretty interestingly. What did you think?
Well, it reminds me of a certain trial that happens to a few characters next season, probably. That's like
Mhm.
one of my predictions. So I'm assuming that it's like a similar thing that he just like, yeah, like steps into the dream world for like this like meeting with the Dark One again,
Right.
where he basically gets to see like a reality that he wants, like probably like his like one of his like deepest desires, which we know because like Rand is just like, I want my sheep farm and to like marry Egwene and have kids
Right.
and like grow old with my friends. That's like what he wants.
Yeah.
And so to see like for him to like just like step into that and be like, what's happening? And then like to be like tempted with like what he like really wants. I thought it was really sweet that he's like, well, this isn't the Egwene I love.
Right.
After like trying to like figure out how real she is. Like, I don't know. I love that it was ultimately just that like that's not what she would want. And that's like how he knows it's not real.
I love that part of it too. I think he basically gives, I don't know, he seems to give her so much more respect than than the character does in the book. We
Yeah.
basically was just like, this is not her. And even if I can manifest this, I wouldn't, because this isn't real. This isn't the person, at least, that I know. And I think all of this is my favorite part of the whole episode. I think is the Rand with the Dark One trying to, he's presenting him this world that he wants and saying you can have it, um, only if trust in the Dark One, which just in and of itself sounds like a bad idea. But luckily Rand realizes that this is something that he doesn't want to engage with and starts to channel through um what I think she calls it a saw-angreal
Mhm.
that Moraine gives him, which during this we should say this is a change from the book again, or at least I'm unfamiliar with what's going on here, since in what seems the real world, Moraine is actually communicating with this guy, with the Dark One, in an actual physical world, whereas the Dark One's talking to Rand in sort of like a dream space, or like a world that could be, and but he's simultaneously in both places. So
Yeah.
during
Yeah, it's
during this
weird.
during this conversation with Rand, he's actually talking to Moraine, and he does something to her, which I'm interested in what you think, because I have some
Oh,
inklings, I have some ideas of what happened to Moraine, but what do you think he does? Because during this, Moraine immediately summons the one power to try and protect Rand, who's unconscious, and tries to like turn air into like daggers to like attack this, the Dark One, and he stops those easily, and then like does something to her that apparently stops her from being able to touch the one power anymore. Um, what do you think it actually is happening here? Does it seem as simple as that to you?
I mean, it seems like it's something that she needs someone to like help her reverse, but I don't think it's permanent.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I've watched this episode a few times now. If you watch
Yeah,
it
if you like
slowly,
watch what it looks like what happened to Logain in
yes,
like when they had
exactly.
him in the cage. So like I think it's just like he like sucked it into her and then like
Yeah.
I don't know what
It
he did
it's
after
unclear
that,
what
but
he did, but he does. Here we note he has that same ring on that Lews Therin and the woman had in the intro. But whatever he does with it, whether that is something he uses to do what he did there, or if it's some terangrial or something like that can help him channel the power or something. But you know, he puts that sort of shield on, the same sort that we see on Logain in the beginning of the season, or on episode 4. Um, but it's so quickly done, like way more quickly than when Moraine and uh what's the green's name? I forget her name.
Lana.
Alana, yeah. They quickly put, he basically does it in an instant. And he does it without seemingly any effort.
He's got
And
like 3,000 years of practice,
right.
right?
So it seems different from what happens to Logain to me.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem to be affected in the same way, but it might just be the same effects. So it might not matter that much, because it seems by the end of the episode she can't do anything. But as a result of this, she's threatening to use her knife against Rand to kill him if he decides to turn to the black, or to the dark. Um, which, again, dubious. The whole plan, again, still seems dubious to me, why they would think this would work, and why she thinks the Dark One, couldn't just stop her or heal Rand. Like I don't believe the threat that she's putting. And then by the end of this confrontation, where Rand, acknowledges that this isn't his Egwene, this isn't the life that he would want to have forced on her, he basically, uses that power and that sangreal to channel something at the Dark One. But as he dies, he's smiling. And
Mhm.
so again, I think we both, I don't know if we both came to this conclusion, but my thought from last episodes, this is a trap. And it
Yeah.
seems like this is definitely all just a trap. And I think
I think he tricked Rand into letting him out, right? It's
right.
like,
The seal at the end too. So it's at the after he channels, you see like a crack in the
mhm.
ground where they're standing.
It's
And
made of an interesting mineral. I don't remember the name of the mineral, but Moiraine
I
picks it
think
up.
it's
It's
called
like,
It's called Quaindiar, I think.
mm,
I think that's the right name. But yeah, it's supposed to be unbreakable by anything, even the one power. So,
what did Rand
who
do?
knows? Who knows what he did? They didn't really explain it. He just like shot the power at the guy, and that
Because
worked.
Rand doesn't know what he did.
So yeah, that's kind of the confrontation with the Dark One. And I guess we can kind of I guess we should probably touch base with what's happening with Fane and Perrin before we get the resolutions of everything.
Yeah.
Um,
So Perrin, it seems, is trying to take the way of the leaf and
yeah,
like be nonviolent.
he
And
mentions the way of the leaf when he's
yeah,
struggling with what he can do.
yeah. I love that.
As
He's like, I
everyone's going
can't
to
just
fight.
sit here. And Loyal's just like, I'm standing.
There's like another reason why we need more loyal. Just that's a good reason for him. Just
But
he's not acting hasty. He's being really logical and thorough.
yeah. And I love that he's just like, just because like you're not out there fighting doesn't mean you can't help. Like you just have to ask how you can help. And then
Right,
like lo and behold, there was something he could do. Like
right. So, what they end up doing, another change in the book is digging up the Horn of Valir, which he does mention is a horn that can call past heroes to fight in any battle. Um they don't go a whole lot of, detail into that, but so that's assumingly it's in that box. We don't know, they never open it. So but as they're digging it up, Pattern Fane shows up, or at least a glimpse of him shows up, and Perrin checks out that glimpse, which I should note, we see a bat again, which is the bat's a common motif for the Dark One, it seems like, or at least
yeah.
we saw it in like episode 3 or
Mhm.
2.
Like bats and ravens are like
Yeah,
the
I think it's just like any sort of like some animal that eats like
dead
leftovers or
dead
like
things.
dead things essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know if we are supposed to assume that Pattern Fane has some sort of ability connected to the bats, because once he hears some screaming, he runs back, and Pattern Fane is actually back in the room where they were
Is
digging up the Horn
he
of Valir.
is he a vampire and Perrin
Yeah,
is a werewolf? Is that
I think that's what we're supposed to get here. I think we got the classic vampire and werewolf motif going on. I
yes.
mean, it it definitely, you know, he I don't know if they're gonna explain the powers of Pattern Fane are hard to explain, and I don't know if he has any in the show, and I assume he does, since he seems to be able to move quickly and like undetected, and he's following them, and like all the crap that they go through to get to get to
Yeah.
where they're going. He's able to just kind of like,
Follow
waltz
them
through,
around.
yeah, with no problem. So but yeah, so he basically hears some screaming. Perrin does, as he's trying to find out where that glimpse of Pattern Fane that he saw, and he runs back into that room, the throne room, where they were digging up the horn, and looks like a couple fades and Pattern Fane are actually in that room killing all of his friends. So it was effective to get him out of that room. But
I, I
notable
almost
deaths here. But
I almost feel like that the I think that wasn't the horn in the box. Like I think
yeah,
it was like a distraction. Because like why would they leave the horn unattended?
yeah, it's curious. Once they dig it up and
They
they
just
notice
like
like something's coming, they just sit it to the side instead of like protecting it with their lives. Like,
Unless Loyal somehow like really quickly like put it in his coat or something.
Yeah.
Like that's my other thought. Like I just don't think that they got the horn.
I hoped I hope they would show it so we could see
Yeah.
what kind of horror we're
Yeah.
looking at here.
Yeah, like
Um,
it's like you want to know why, because otherwise it's just like what's in the box.
yeah. Because they didn't give you a whole much. They didn't give you a whole lot to kind of assess about the importance of it. But it does seem important because, you know, it's seemingly why Patton Fane broke into the city. Maybe why all the Trollocs were even led there in the first place.
Yeah.
Because he didn't take Perrin, as he stated, you know, in his monologue after, you know, he's killed some characters that we'll get back to in a second, or seemingly killed some characters that we'll get back to. But you know, in his monologue, Patton Fane is saying, all five of you, I'm assuming by all five he means, you know, Mat, Bran, Perrin, Egwene, and Nynaeve. They're all ta'veren and focal points of the wheel, or the focal points of the pattern is how he describes it. And so um, he didn't want to kill them. He wanted to bring them to the Dark Lord, or to his Lord, is how he says it. But then he leaves. You know, he doesn't do anything to Perrin, which is curious to me, because wouldn't you take him, right? If you wanted to originally take him to the Dark Lord, but maybe he doesn't care about him as much since he's not the dragon. But that contradicts what he just said. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But how did you feel about Patton Fane? I mean, we alluded to him being more, you know, there being more to him than just kind of, you know, shadowing them. But what did you think about this sort of introduction to him?
Oh, I like him. I mean, I feel
Yeah,
like he's more interesting of a character than like in the books. He just kind of
yeah,
seems crazy in the books. Like he like it's like he's like just like not there, but like he's actually like sinister in like a cool way. I don't
yeah.
know. The actor is interesting the way
I
he
like the
plays
actor.
him.
He's definitely got this sort of swagger that I like. You know, when he
Hmm.
like walks, he does this sort of like, really don't care about a whole lot other than looking cool when I walk, and I can
Yeah.
appreciate that to a degree. um, so yeah, and before he leaves, he does kill seemingly some notable characters, particularly Loyal, which was a huge shock to me. I was not excited about that, and I want him back now. Can you
Yeah.
resurrect him the same way that we resurrect Nynaeve later?
Yeah.
I don't know. And then he also seemingly kills. I don't know if we've given a name to this character, but there's Uno who's stabbed as well. It looks like, and then there's I think his name is Lord Yamoto, or your
Thanks.
Lord Yakota. He's
Lord,
the other guy that's there with Uno as part of
yeah.
the party to go and get the horn. And seemingly they're all dead by the end of this, or at least they've all been stabbed. Um, but I don't know. So this is, we can kind of, I think this is fair game to bring into it. I read an article from
The
the
interview
showrunner,
with the interview where immediately he's like, Loyal's not dead.
right? And so now I'm like, who's dead then? I don't know. But
Like,
basically, Rafe
why
Judkins
stab
is saying
Loyal?
that. I mean, it's, he says it's so that we stay on our toes about, you know, there are characters that don't die in the books that are going to die in the show, and
Mm.
so he wants to keep you on your toes about that. So I think that's,
Okay.
it's effective. I was on my toes. I was on the edge of my seat, like screaming at the screen, like no, no. But luckily, hopefully, Loyal will return. I don't know what the impact of being stabbed by that dagger, because it's the dagger. You can clearly see it's a dagger that Mat had, the
Yeah.
one that was corrupted. So it theoretically could be very damaging to someone
Yeah.
who's been stabbed with that. But perhaps it's just like any other dagger. I don't know. But
Who knows? I'm assuming Loyal has really thick skin also.
yeah, I wonder if that'll play into it. That maybe he's got some sort of ability to absorb something like that, some sort of attack like that. I don't
Yeah.
know though. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then I
I don't
guess
know. That was
we
just hard to see.
yeah, it was hard to see that because he's just on the ground like being stabbed and it's needless, it seems like. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just sort of supposed to illustrate how bad a guy Pattern Fane is.
Yeah.
Which
And I wonder if it's gonna make Perrin think twice about like the way of the leaf because he like looks at
yeah.
his axe and then he's like,
Yeah.
no, I won't grab it. And now he's like, maybe if I had my axe.
Yeah.
'Cause I can
I thought it
imagine
was great.
Perrin. Yeah.
He literally, you could see the internal struggle, and he pulls up, he grabs an axe that's on like the ground, he picks it up, and like I love that Pattern Fane like comments like the slightest push and you're already tempted by the darkness, or the I think the shadow. I don't know exactly how he puts it, but I think that's an interesting thing because he also says that the balance of the light and the dark is going to play a role in everybody. And as he's saying his monologue, it goes to Matt, who's apparently back in Tarvalon or Tarvalon. I'm saying it incorrectly. But he's in Tarvalon and he looks like he's looking for the dagger, or maybe I don't know what he's doing there, but he looks haggard and it's kind of as bad as he did before. So I don't know. I guess we're supposed to assume he might be tempted to the dark, and then you see that Perrin is seemingly going to be tempted to harm or hurt people, go against the way of the leaf, which he seems to, I guess, have accepted in some way, or at least was trying to practice. So I liked all of that. I thought that was
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, I feel like one of the big themes of season 2 is gonna be like, who can you trust? And I'm gonna be
Yeah.
falling for it every time. Every
Yeah.
single time. I'm always like, no way. They were a dark friend the whole time.
Right.
Like, it's just like I feel like so stupid every time.
And
It's
Dana
okay.
in episode 3 caught me completely off guard. I had
Me
no
too.
idea.
I was like, I hope she stays with them for a while.
Right. I was like, is this gonna be like a cool new character they introduced? And it's just like, nope, that's a dark friend that's going to kill them.
Oh man, the shot of her like just like sprinting through the town with Rand's sword
Right.
terrified me.
I mean, I think that introduction of her plays into why I think I like Pattern Fane here with his explanation of what's going on. He seems to kind of buy into it to a degree that I wasn't expecting. In the
Yeah,
book, he's more kind of just like you said, chaotic evil.
like
He
he's
doesn't
like
really care.
possessed. Like it's almost
Yeah,
like he's like it doesn't seem like he like has any control over it. It's like he like something took him over. It's not like he chose the dark in like
right.
the way. And maybe I misinterpreted it because I haven't read
I
it in a
I
while.
I
But
think it's kind of, to me, the dark friends that they've shown, basically just those two, right? The one that they've outed, because anyone could be a dark friend, right? But the ones that they've outed as dark friends, which is these two, Pattern Fane and Dana, they seem to actually believe it in a way
Mhm.
that some characters in the books do, but not Pattern Fane. At least not to the not in the way it's portrayed in the books. He's different in the books, and I think this isn't a way to try to spoil it. He's definitely interesting and very, very diabolical in the books, so it's worth still reading it. But he in the show, I think it's more compelling when the dark is sort of actually uh has some sort of pull to it, not just like badness for bad sake. It seems like he
Yeah.
kind of believes it, and he, has some sort of goal in mind with it. Um, but yeah, so at the end here, Perrin, he basically calls Perrin's bluff. Perrin picks up the axe to go attack him, but he's still struggling internally. And so Pattern Fane just waltz off with the box, seemingly carrying the Horn of Villiers, with those two fades, and he is gone. And then we go to Nynaeve and Egwene, where after the burning out has happened, Egwene basically heals Nynaeve.
Mhm.
I didn't expect this. I don't know if I talked about how I was kind of had no idea what was going on when Nynaeve was like seemingly dead there as well. so
I
many
was
fake
like,
out
no.
kills. That's like
Yeah.
one of my criticisms. There's just too many fake out kills.
Yeah. I feel like it was like they had to somehow raise the stakes and like communicate like the dangers of like channeling, especially when you're untrained. Like I feel
Mhm.
like if Nynaeve understood like how to use her powers, she probably could have just like cut off like the source, like her connection to the source. Like she could have like stopped it from
Yeah,
Lady Amalisa from like taking it over, or like blocked like Egwene at least, you know?
right. It does seem like she was able to pull it from Egwene. She took
Yeah.
over whatever was connecting Egwene to
Yeah.
their link. Um, but yeah, that scene just, it does. It was
So
definitely, it
like
was hard to watch.
also like healing is supposed to be like really dangerous. Like it's like one
Yeah,
of those things that like you're like not supposed to attempt to do until you've like had formal training on it.
I think there's a dynamic to the healing where it's like
Yeah.
the slightest miscalculation in how you heal someone could kill them. So
Yeah.
the fact that she does it without any sort of idea of what she's doing really is a change. I don't
Yeah.
know if that I necessarily disagree with it, because Moraine says at one point to Rand in this episode that whenever you need it, the power will be there.
Yeah.
And and I guess maybe that's just a change that I
Hmm.
just need to get on board with, essentially, where it's less. It's basically what you need from it might happen if you need it at that time. It's kind of what I understood from what she said, and seemingly how it worked out for Nynaeve earlier in the season, where she just exploded with power and it actually healed everybody. And same thing with Egwene. And I guess same thing with Rand too, because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Hmm.
But seemingly it's all the right stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm fine with that change. I think those changes make sense to me. I just kind of think that there's just a whole lot of lore stuff that is changing, that I think I just need to be like step back from it, um, and
I
actually just
feel
accept
like
what's happening. But
I feel like this episode is probably going to seem better after a couple seasons.
yeah,
Like I think that like it'll be like, "Oh, I understand why this was like this."
right. I think so too. I think, like we had mentioned in the beginning, there was COVID at this time, or like
Yeah.
exactly around this time, and shut down the production. And then they lost an actor during this time as well, one of their main actors, Matt.
Yeah.
Um, and so they kind of had to cut a bunch of stuff and work around him not being there. So
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I guess, that's, you can't
Maybe
really
when
excuse
we
it, but
maybe when we discuss Matt, like book Matt, we can like kind of talk about what that means.
I think so. I think that's a good idea to kind of tie together, because I
Yeah.
like Matt in the book, in the
Mhm.
show.
Me
I
too.
don't necessarily like him in the book, at this part in the book.
Yeah.
So
I like that they like kind of play off of his like unlikability as like maybe he's a dark friend,
yeah,
and like other than rather than just being like annoying
yeah,
or just like
that's the
really
thing.
immature.
The age difference, I think, hurts a bit, because he's super childish in the books, and I
Yeah.
think they fixed that by making the aging him up a bit, so he's not as like annoying in that way, but he's still kind of like, the roguish sort of
Worrisome.
rapscallion sort of thing.
Yeah.
um but I think he's, again, I think very missed in this episode, because I think
Mhm.
the Padam Fane stuff was supposed to be between that whole that whole conversation being between Perrin and Padam Fane seemed off to me, because I feel like it
Mm.
should have been between Matt, since he's only interacted with Matt
Yeah.
in that first episode. So
Yeah,
I
even
think it
in the
works,
like
but
previously in the Wheel of Time, it's like the "You're right, bastard" Pat on Fane is like
yeah.
how they like call back to him. So it's like obviously like it was it's okay.
It's
It's all
fine.
good.
I mean, so I guess in the end, like I said, I think I think I enjoyed this episode for a lot of reasons. I think they had to redo a lot of stuff from the book that just wouldn't work on screen. They had to deal with the issues of COVID and losing an actor. But all that considered, all that aside, right? I'm just thinking of the my enjoyment. I still enjoyed this episode a lot, particularly the stuff with Rand and in the Dark One. And I really do like the stuff with what they're doing with Nynaeve and Egwene there. Um, and just kind of showing, how the power can kind of intoxicate you to a degree that it makes you unreasonable or irrational at least.
Yeah. And then they just switched to one of my like favorite cliffhangers or tsunami hangers that I've ever like. I was so excited. We got to see Sean Chan.
Yeah, that was
They're
I
like
honestly didn't expect that at
scarier.
all.
They were scarier than like I could have like possibly imagined.
Yeah.
And like the art, like the skull armor and the like face armor and then like the muzzle thing. And oh man,
Did you
the implications.
I'm trying to figure out what exactly they were trying to do by carry, like what was the wave for? What were they trying to do? Like
I
get their
mean,
army there faster, maybe? I think that's kind of what it was for. But
yeah.
it definitely worked. I mean, they look super intimidating. They have what seem to be Aes Sedai. If without book knowledge, these are women who can channel that seem to be conjuring up this massive tsunami. And they
The
look
way they were
super alien.
synchronized, it reminds me of the linking that Lady
Yeah,
Amalisa did, where like it seems like because like they're like so perfectly in sync. Like
yeah. It definitely does kind of echo that a bit. That's a good point. I think obviously that'll be what we deal with next season. Um and then we kind of also end to, I guess before we get there, the kind of
oh
ending of where everyone kind of ends up. We see Rand go out and towards the blight. He's basically like tells Moraine to tell everyone that he's dead and he didn't make it back from this battle. And he goes off and towards what we assume is further deeper into the blight. Then he comes up to some sort of like, I don't know,
mountain
west,
range.
like some, yeah, like a big mountain range, sort of deserty looking sort of place. Then we see Perrin looking out towards, assumingly where Egwene and Nynaeve are.
Mhm.
Um, and then we see Moraine and Lan talk about that seal that's been broken and how that they didn't believe this was the last battle, or she didn't believe it was the last battle. And she also tells him that she can no longer
Yeah.
touch the source, which we touched on. Because Lan asks for her to release, unmask the bond so that they can, resume their water bond. But she says she can't, which he's is emotionally unready for, I believe. But also,
Mhm.
I'm super curious as to what they're going to be doing next
Yeah.
season.
Yeah. And I'm like thinking about like what happened with Steppen. Like, what is it gonna be like for him to like not be able to feel her,
right.
even
Because
though
it's
she's there? Because I don't think it's the same. Because like they're
yeah,
not like I don't know, like they have this like almost kind of like cold professional like thing about them throughout the season. Like when I was watching it, it was like, do they really like each other, or are they just like war like Lan and Moraine just because like they don't know any different? And like I
right,
wonder if that's gonna be a thing of like them either like deepening their bond in like a new way or like growing apart. I don't know.
right. Because I mean, do you have the addition of Nynaeve?
Hmm.
Um, so he's got that, and now he's seemingly free from his bond, or at least he's unable to feel his connection to Moraine at this moment. So I'm curious as to what all this means going
Yeah.
forward. So we've got the Sean Chan. which I don't think they name, but you know, there's a son, there's a Shanshan. Um, and we have Rand going off to who knows where, and then we have you know, the rest of the characters kind of, I guess, left to pick up the pieces.
Min left.
Just so yeah, Min's gone. And she's vital, I think, to keeping people guided, at least in you know, understanding where they should be heading with her visions. So without her, I don't know that they have as much of an idea of where to go or what to do at this point. So hopefully she comes back. I'm hoping for her next season.
Oh yeah, I think she'll be back.
Yeah. So yeah, what do you I guess, how do you want to end this one? We can, I feel like we did sort of a sort of like, you know, episode, sort of how we felt about it overall. Did you want to do predictions necessarily for season 2, since they're gonna be like wild guesses for the most part?
I think I almost want to do the predictions next week because I don't know. Yeah, I want to do them next week.
Okay.
Because like I feel like
That's
there's
fair.
something I'm forgetting.
There's I want to make sure too that I'm not like, because I have a bunch of ideas on what they might
I
be
don't
doing.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil though.
Right. It's hard. This one's been hard for me because I'm trying to like not spoil a lot, because there's some stuff that I can see that they're setting up that isn't necessarily a spoiler, but it's weird because it's like a thing that isn't it's not something that's a spoiler in the actual book, but they're seemingly setting it up as a reveal to be something that comes up in the show, versus like something that they just kind of outright said in the beginning of the book. So
Yeah. For any listeners that are not reading the books and on Twitter and reading about the casting, don't look at the casting things.
right.
That's all I'm gonna say. If you don't want to be spoiled for something kind of big.
There I think if we do episodes about other books where they talk about these characters, we'll bring it up. But sure, if you do not want to be spoiled about season 2, there are already leaks out about what's going on in season 2, so be careful out there.
Saw a glimpse of the new Matt and he looked pretty good. So
right. And we can say this. I mean, now I can feel more comfortable saying it. Barney Harris, who played Matt in this season, is gone, and so we'll be getting Donald Finn, Finn, who will be playing him going forward. And so I would look into him. I will say this: the headshots of him were off-putting for me at first, but I saw a clip of him in this short film that for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it now, but he's got a show reel. If you look him up, that maybe
he's also in The Witcher
Google
for
it.
like 2 seconds, right?
Yes, he's in the Witcher episode in the first season. But yeah, I think in The Witcher episode, in this short that I'm thinking of, which maybe we'll put it in the episode notes or something. But yeah, he's great. I have a lot of confidence in his ability to pull off this role. So, and he looks similar to Barney Harris. So I think if you're worried about that, I think it'll be good. And Rafe Judkins, the showrunner, has said that it'll be a seamless transition. So, and then I think a couple of the actors have said, you know, working with him has been great so far, and he's a good match. So I think we'll be in good hands here. But yeah, so it sucked to lose Barney Harris because I really loved his performance. But you know, next season we'll get a new guy.
I do have a decree for this week, which was something we thought of for last week, but I didn't actually have one, and we babbled a lot. But I have one for this week. It's very short. It's just protect Loyal.
Protect him.
That's my friend.
You've got and that's a good one, because I think Perrin needs to learn that lesson the hard way, it seems. I don't know what he was thinking.
He had
how
one
you can
job.
Protect them. Exactly.
He literally had one job.
And it was a simple job. And you know, you can't really miss this guy because he's huge. He's, you know, he's got a really booming voice. you can't miss him. So he's always know where he is. You should be able to protect him at all times, really. But yeah, I think that's important. Otherwise, you don't know what's going on. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a thing I think they didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to, but he's got all the lore. He knows
He does.
about a lot of things. He also has a lot of life lessons he can give you. So he's important for a lot of reasons.
Also, I don't know if they haven't said it yet, but he's an author.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity here to be in a book.
Right.
And but yeah, so that's my decree.
I support it wholeheartedly.
No more injuries to Loial.
That being said, fans of the book readers, I think you need to be prepared based on this. All your favorites are up on the chopping block, it seems. So no one's safe, which is nerve-wracking, but it's reality of this show going forward, I think.
Yeah.
All right. And so I guess I will have a bit of a transition here where I'll essentially set up a Gleeman song. This will be one that maybe explains a little bit about the lore and kind of as a capstone for the season. So listen. I'll put some versions of this out other places as well, so that you can get some other way to access it. But if you want the full thing, stay tuned and we'll play it now. The wheel has turned for better or worse, and it'll keep on turning. Lights die and forests dim, turn it will again. The wheel is not whole, and the wheel does not care. The wheel just simply is. But so long as it turns, folk may hope, folk may even care. The light that fades will eventually grow, as each storm that rages must eventually die. For as long as the wheel turns, for as long as the wheel turns. Thank you for joining us for our third episode of The Great Honey. It says second in the notes, so that was my bad. It's fine.
Find us on Instagram and Twitter as Great Honey Pod, Great Honey on TikTok, and The Great Honey anywhere you can find podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We'll be releasing episodes every Wednesday, and until then, see you around.
Yeah.